It's a bit unnerving to think that just a handful of people, mostly huddled around computers in Silicon Valley, might be holding the fate of humanity in their hands.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's overselling it, but we're talking about the folks building AGI, artificial general intelligence.
Right.
We're diving into a report called Situational Awareness, The Decade Ahead, written by Leopold Aschenbrenner.
Okay.
He was right there in the thick of it at OpenAI.
Wow.
So he's got that insider knowledge.
Yeah.
What's eerie is he's suggesting that we're right on the precipice of something as world-altering as inventing the atomic bomb.
It's like a modern-day Manhattan Project, wouldn't you say?
Right.
But instead of splitting atoms, we're talking about machines that can think for themselves, learn, and potentially outsmart us.
And Aschenbrenner, he lays out this concept of counting the OMs,
Yeah,
the
but-
orders of magnitude, as a way to measure that raw computing power that's driving AI.
Wow.
And every time we increase this compute, even a little, it's like strapping a rocket booster onto AI's potential.
And the thing is, we aren't just kind of slowly increasing this power.
Yeah.
From GPT-2 to GPT-4 in just 4 years, we saw this massive leap in compute. And, I mean, the results are pretty self-evident.
I remember when GPT-2 came out.
Yeah.
It felt more like a parlor trick than a world changer. It could
Yeah.
string sentences together, but you weren't going to mistake it for Hemingway.
Right.
But GPT-4...
GPT-4 was like watching a child prodigy just suddenly blossom into this world-class expert overnight.
Yeah.
It's not just that it could ace exams or generate code like a pro. It started demonstrating actual reasoning skills.
Yep.
The cost of achieving that level of AI performance in, say, complex mathematics plummeted by a factor of 1,000 in just 2 years.
Wow.
Imagine just for a second what that kind of price drop would do to the cost of, well, anything.
Yeah.
Now imagine that same kind of deflation happening in virtually every field of human endeavor.
It really puts things into perspective.
Yeah.
And this is where Aschenbrenner's argument gets really interesting.
Okay.
He says it's not just about raw computing power.
Right.
He highlights this concept of algorithmic efficiency.
Okay.
Basically, AI isn't just getting more powerful, it's getting smarter about how it uses that power.
Yeah.
It's becoming more fuel efficient, if you will.
And that efficiency is increasing at a pace that's like comparable to the growth in raw computing power.
Yeah.
It creates this compounding effect that has even the most level-headed experts a little bit, well, let's just say surprised. It's putting it mildly.
Yeah.
So we've got these two engines of progress, raw power and cleverness, both firing on all cylinders at the same time.
Yeah.
No wonder even the skeptics are starting to sweat a little.
Aschenbrenner uses this interesting analogy.
Okay.
He compares current AI, even something as advanced as ChatGPT, to like a brilliant new hire,
Okay.
full of potential but lacking experience and context.
Right.
They might be able to write a decent report, but they don't understand the nuances of the business or the complexities of the real world.
Right. They haven't yet learned how to navigate the office politics or find the best snacks in the vending machine.
Precisely.
And what if we could unhobble AI?
Okay.
Give it that missing context and experience.
Yeah.
That's what Aschenbrenner argues is about to happen.
Instead of being limited to short, isolated tasks, AI would be able to tackle problems that take days, weeks, or even months to solve.
Yeah.
Imagine giving an AI the task of finding a cure for cancer, and then just letting it loose on the problem running simulations, analyzing data, collaborating with other AIs.
And this unhobbling hinges on 3 key areas.
Okay.
First, there's the onboarding problem.
It's about how we equip AI with the same contextual knowledge and experience that a human expert would acquire over a lifetime.
Right.
We're talking about things like long context memory access to vast databases and the ability to learn from mistakes.
It's like giving AI a crash course in everything humanity knows.
Yeah.
So it's not starting from scratch every time it encounters a new problem.
Yeah.
It'd be like downloading the entire Library of Congress right into its AI brain.
And not even downloading it, but actually being able to process and understand all that information like that.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling to even consider.
Yeah.
The second area Aschenbrenner highlights is what he calls test time compute overhang.
Okay.
It's a mouthful, but what it boils down to is this.
Yeah.
Right now, even our most advanced AIs are constrained by how long we allow them to, think about a problem.
We're still asking them to solve equations in seconds or generate text in minutes.
Right.
What if we let them run wild on a problem for days, weeks, even months?
That's exactly the idea.
Yeah.
Imagine an AI spending a year on a research project, analyzing data, running simulations, testing hypotheses, all without a single coffee break.
Right.
Without a single complaint.
It'd be like having a team of researchers that could work nonstop at lightning speed, and they never get tired. They never lose their train of thought.
Precisely.
And that brings us to the third area of unhobbling,
Okay.
using a computer.
This is about moving beyond treating AI as a bunch of isolated tools and letting it seamlessly interact with the digital world just like we do.
So instead of just asking an AI to write a blog post, we could ask it to research a topic on line code, a website, and then promote it on social media, all without any human intervention.
Precisely.
Wow.
Imagine giving AI access to the internet databases software, the entire digital landscape,
Yeah.
and just letting it roam freely, learning and adapting as it goes.
It's a powerful idea, but it also feels like we're opening Pandora's box here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, what happens if this unhobbled AI stumbles across the dark corners of the internet?
Right.
The misinformation, the bad actors.
That's a valid concern, and it highlights why this transition to a world with AGI is so fraught with both promise and peril.
Yeah.
Aschenbrenner doesn't shy away from these concerns.
Right.
In fact, he uses another historical analogy to kind of really drive home the significance of what's at stake here,
Okay.
the development of the atomic bomb.
Okay. I can see where he's going with this.
Okay.
The creation of the atomic bomb was a pivotal moment in human history, and it wasn't just because of the bomb itself.
Right.
It was the rapid development of even more powerful weapons like the hydrogen bomb that followed soon after.
Exactly. Aschenbrenner argues that AGI might be our atomic bomb moment,
Okay.
but the real game changer is what comes next, the intelligence explosion.
So it's not just about AI reaching human-level intelligence.
Right.
It's about what happens when it surpasses us, potentially by a long shot,
Yeah.
and starts driving its own development.
Imagine this, an AI or a network of AIs that can do everything a human scientist can do, but at 1,000 times the speed and scale.
Right.
It would have access to every research paper, every data set, every experiment ever conducted.
It'd be like having a million Einsteins all working together on the same problem.
Right.
The progress would be almost unimaginable.
And that's precisely Aschenbrenner's point. Once this intelligence explosion is triggered, the pace of technological progress could accelerate exponentially.
Wow.
What takes us years to accomplish might take an AI hours or even minutes.
So we're not talking about incremental advancements anymore. We're talking about a potential paradigm shift in everything from medicine to energy to material science. It's hard to even wrap your head around the possibilities.
And the implications go far beyond the merely technological.
Yeah.
Aschenbrenner argues that the nation that triggers this intelligence explosion first, even by a small margin, could gain an unprecedented strategic advantage.
It would be like having a monopoly on the future.
And that's why Aschenbrenner sounds the alarm about China.
Okay.
He argues that despite some limitations, China has 3 key advantages in this race for AGI.
Right.
First, they have the resources and the willpower to secure massive computational power.
Okay.
They're investing heavily in chips, data centers, and energy infrastructure.
So they're playing the long game, building the foundation for a future that's dominated by AI.
Second, they have a proven track record of rapid industrial mobilization.
Right.
When they set their minds on something, they can move with surprising speed and efficiency.
Yeah. Remember how quickly they built those hospitals during the early days of the pandemic?
Right.
Imagine that kind of focus and efficiency applied to building the infrastructure for AGI.
It's a sobering thought. We might pride ourselves on innovation in the West, but we also love our bureaucracy.
And that brings us to China's third and perhaps most concerning advantage,
Okay.
espionage.
Aschenbrenner is incredibly critical of the lax security at leading AI labs.
Yeah.
He argues that China could potentially leapfrog ahead simply by stealing the key algorithms and research from the West.
He basically accuses us of leaving the back door wide open while we're busy showing off the fancy new AI gadgets in the front yard.
It's a harsh assessment, but not entirely inaccurate.
Yeah.
Aschenbrenner argues that the U.S. needs to wake up to the national security threat posed by China in the race for AGI. It's not just about who gets to build the coolest robots, is it?
Right.
This is about the balance of power in the 21st century and beyond.
Precisely. And it raises a fundamental question.
Oh?
What happens if an authoritarian regime like China acquires the keys to the intelligence explosion?
It's a chilling thought. We've already seen how technologies like facial recognition and social media monitoring can be used for surveillance and control.
Right.
Imagine what a government like China's could do with superintelligence at its disposal.
It would be unlike anything we've ever seen before.
It's almost like we're those people in that sci-fi movie, you know?
Right.
The world's going about their business completely oblivious to this, like, giant asteroid that's hurtling towards Earth.
Yeah.
We're so busy, like, laughing at the latest AI-generated meme or song, we don't realize that the ground is shifting right under our feet.
And this isn't just a problem for like governments or tech giants to solve, you know?
Right.
This is about all of us. We're talking about a potential upheaval in how we work, how we live, how we even understand what it means to be human.
So what can we do? What does Aschenbrenner propose we do about this potential AI tidal wave?
Aschenbrenner argues for a bold and some might say radical solution.
Okay.
He calls it Project AGI.
So instead of splitting atoms in some secret lab, we're building thinking machines out in the open.
Well, not exactly. Aschenbrenner acknowledges the dangers of an intelligence explosion, especially if it's controlled by a single nation or corporation.
Yeah.
He believes that this technology is just too powerful, too potentially dangerous to be left solely in the hands of private companies.
So if he's calling for government oversight regulation, maybe even a global effort to try to manage AGI development? But doesn't that go against the whole ethos of innovation, letting the best minds run free?
He grapples with that very question in the report.
Okay.
He compares it to the development of nuclear power.
Okay.
Initially, it was this tightly guarded government secret driven by military imperatives.
Right.
But eventually it transitioned into a civilian technology subject to international regulations and safety protocols.
So we need a similar roadmap for AGI.
Exactly.
The way to harness this incredible potential without, blowing ourselves up in the process.
Aschenbrenner argues that this time we don't have the luxury of hindsight.
Right.
We can't afford to make the same mistakes we made with nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
We need to establish safeguards and ethical frameworks right from the get-go.
Easier said than done, right?
Of course.
I mean, we can barely agree on how to regulate social media, let alone something as complex and potentially world-changing as AGI.
It's a daunting challenge, no doubt.
Yeah.
But Aschenbrenner argues that the alternative, allowing a handful of companies or governments to control the destiny of superintelligence, is far more dangerous.
Right.
He's not naive about the complexities, but he believes that international cooperation, transparency, and a shared sense of urgency are our best hope.
So where does that leave, like, the average person?
Right.
The person who can barely program their coffee maker?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do while the geniuses are off building the future with or without guardrails?
Aschenbrenner ends on a surprisingly optimistic note, actually.
Okay.
He argues that the most important thing we can do right now is to educate ourselves.
Okay.
To understand the potential of AGI, both the good and the bad, to engage in thoughtful conversations about the future we want to create.
So instead of panicking or burying our heads in the sand,
Right.
we need to get informed, get engaged, and maybe, just maybe, we can kind of steer this technological revolution in a direction that benefits all of humanity.
He stresses that this technology is not some inevitable force of nature.
Right.
It's being built by humans, and we have a responsibility to shape its development to ensure that it aligns with our values.
It's a lot to process.
Yeah.
This whole idea that we might be on the verge of creating something that could either elevate us to new heights or wipe us off the map.
Yeah.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this one thought.
Okay.
Something Aschenbrenner only touches upon briefly, but I think it's worth thinking about.
And what's that?
He focuses a lot on the technological and geopolitical aspects of AGI,
Right.
which makes sense.
Sure.
But what about the philosophical implications?
Yeah.
What does it actually mean to create a machine that could potentially outthink us, outcreate us, maybe even outlive us?
Right.
What happens to our sense of purpose, our place in the universe when we're not the smartest kids on the block anymore?
That's a profound question, and honestly one that I suspect will occupy philosophers and theologians for generations to come.
It's both exciting and terrifying, don't you think?
Absolutely.
It's like we're standing at the edge of the unknown, and the only thing we know for sure is that things are about to get very interesting.
I think that's a good place to leave it.
Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. It's been quite a journey.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.